Hey guys, welcome to JReviews. I'm Iceman and the game covered today is Dungeon Maker. Dungeon Maker was developed by Global A Entertainment and released on the Sony PlayStation Portable initially in Japan in September of 2006 and then to the rest of the world in 2007. The game is best summed up as a mixture of an action JRPG and a level editor, which is a very odd mix and right off the bat puts the game as being targeted at a very niche audience. As if you were to count how many people are into action JRPGs and making levels in level editors, I'd be betting that the number would be quite small. I'll go more into gameplay shortly. The story to the game is a short one. The land is overrun with demons led by Big Baddie known only as the Wandering Demon. To save the town, you have set up a dungeon nearby to a local town with the goal of enticing the demons into said dungeon. Narrative to the game is told to you in conversations with locals of the village. There are no videos or major cutscenes of any kind in the game, conversations all the way with this one. The feel of this game is divided straight down the line between action RPG and using a level editor. I can't think of a single other game that has done this, so there is no point of comparison for this one. The general atmosphere to the game is of a light-hearted nature, with subtle adult-natured jokes in there. Graphics in the game are 2D in the town segments, where you go around talking to people, and then switches to full 3D in the dungeon segments. For its time back in 2006, these were pretty decent graphics, especially on a handheld if you compare it to the other kinds of graphics that the Nintendo DS was capable of in comparison at the time. It has some decent effects for spells and other things. Not the best looking game you've ever seen by a long shot, but it's not too bad. Music in the game is a real mixed bag, as there is very little variation of it. The music you hear in town varies based on which local NPC that you happen to be speaking to, and that's as far as it goes for the town music. That never changes. The music in the dungeons tends to alternate between two particular tunes per visit, which switches over to combat music when you're in combat. Beyond that, the music stays the same right up to the final big boss battle, which is the only level in the dungeon to feature different music. So with that in mind, the music in this game is very average. Don't get me wrong though, the music the first 20 times that you hear it is fine, but due to the repetitive nature of the game, you will get tired of it fast. Worst yet is that the game offers nothing in its options to switch off the music, so you're stuck with it whether you like it or not. So onto gameplay. So the game splits three ways into the town sections where you speak to NPCs, get new quests and hand in finished ones. In town you can sell loot from dungeons, buy new equipment and spells, and you can purchase one of the key essential gear, which is dungeon parts. These parts factor into the second side of gameplay, which is the dungeon making, which is where the level editor side of things comes in. So the way it works is that you go to the floor that you want to make changes to, travel your character over to the location that you want to make a change to, then bring up the game's menu to place whatever it is that you want to put there. What you can place depends on what dungeon parts you have, from hallway passages, rooms, and floor coverings. Rooms themselves can be changed to specific types as well. All of these factor into two key things. The first being of the overall floor rating, which determines the quality and quantity of demons that are attracted to said floor. The other key thing being of the types of enemies that will spawn in those areas. The better the quality of what you place, the better the type of demon that you may get in that spot. Now with that said, each floor has specific enemies which will appear on a floor, and the rooms and floors you place just increase the chances of specific types of enemies to appear in those spots. Key things to note in the development of your dungeon floors is in making bends in paths and filling up each floor to a decent rating, as each floor has a knock-on effect to floors that delve deeper down from it. The third gameplay type is the action RPG side, where you get to fight the demons and you'll be doing more of that than anything else in the game by far, full stop. This game has a lot of repetition to it, in that you'll be repeatedly going to the same sections and floors, often in the attempt to find quest-related content there. That content is either gear related to specific armor plate pieces, to particular demon item drops, And the other type you'll be looking for is specific demons, which only appear on rare occasions. So expect to be farming a lot in this game. Combat itself is pretty standard, and that you'll be running up to an enemy and whacking it as hard as you can with whatever melee weapon you're currently carrying, or just shoot at it with your bow. Or if you don't feel like that, you can just shoot at it with spells. Or just use beneficial ones to heal yourself or give yourself a good buff of some kind. And that's all there really is to the game. Quite simple in nature, though the complexity comes in trying to make floors with decent ratings, but then surviving what you have created. As the bigger the floor that you create, the longer that it will take you to get through it. Like if you go and create a high rating level, expect that you are going to be spending a significant amount of time in that level alone. Enemy variety in the game is not good. Once you've explored through the first 2 floors of the game, you've seen the vast majority of the enemies that are present in it. Sure, there are some extra after that, but not many. This game could have used a far greater variety in this regard. The last bit to mention is the boss battles, which ramp up in difficulty quite quickly, with the final wandering demon boss on the 10th floor being particularly difficult. One final bit to gameplay I've mentioned as well that factors very importantly is that after you return to town and sell your items, you need to sleep at the end of every day. But before you sleep, you need to give yourself a meal, and through this is how the permanent stat upgrades come into it, because after you choose what type of meal you choose to eat, these come with different stat upgrades that come with them. So very gradually over time, the more you sleep and eat meals, the more gradual your character will gain in power. And that's it on gameplay. Next up is the subject of multiplayer. The game has a location on the town screen where you can go to share dungeons with other players. Due to how bad the Sony PSP's internet capabilities were back when this game came out, and the fact that I've never met a single other person who's played this game, I've never seen this side of the game at all. On the subject of bugs, there are some, though they are very minor, with enemies occasionally spawning inside tables and other furniture. And that's about it really. I've not witnessed anything else, and nothing game-breaking, nothing that would get you killed, nothing that would make the game crash, nothing of that nature at all. Just very minor little things. On the DLC and expansion side of things, there was no DLC for this game. Sequels-wise, there was 2 sequels released. The first, entitled Dungeon Maker 2: The Hidden War, was released in November of 2007, and follows a near identical flow of gameplay to the first, with the main difference being element-based dimensions that you travel to towards the end of the game. Other than that, it is virtually identical to the first one. The third game, entitled Nanotama Chronicle of Dungeon Maker, was released in 2009 in Japan only. It never received an English release, despite online petitions by fans. The original game also got a particular Nintendo DS version, which makes for a different style of game entirely. Gone are the adult elements, 3D dungeons, and the action RPG combat. In its place is a far more child-friendly game that keeps the dungeon-making part intact, but now features Final Fantasy-style turn-based combat whenever you enter a battle, which is a huge change over the original because it factored into so many elements, from like enemies attacking each other accidentally with spells and things, to the way that you fought, the way that you used the environment, all of it. All that gone. Having played both, I have to say that the Nintendo DS port does not hold a candle to the original, and is a good point of reference when comparing the Sony PSP, which was aimed at an adult audience of around 20 years or older, and the Nintendo DS, which was aimed for a much younger audience. You can look at the two and clearly see the difference in the target audiences and the way that they did the content to aim at those audiences. Overall, Dungeon Maker is by far what I would call a hidden gem on the Sony PSP, considering the fact that it's an enjoyable game as long as you don't mind the farming. And due to the fact that I've never heard a single person talk about the game, very much makes it a hidden gem for me. I recommend checking this game out and trying it for yourself, and see what you think of it, especially if you happen to be into JRPGs and level editing or games development. And we're on the lookout for something which combines the two, because there is next to nothing out there that combines all of those factors. I certainly haven't seen many. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos in this series, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and also just check out my channel for further videos and you'll find out what else is available. And with that, this is Iceman of JReviews signing out. Guys, have a good one.